I've never been able to do it where the breathing is on demand, where it's natural breathing.
Okay.
Usually when I have like focus meditation, I focus on like my hands or like my legs or something.
Okay.
I never tried to do it where the breathing is be there breathing. I automatically get into
Get into what?
like an active breathing. It's not my
Okay.
natural breathing pattern. Does that make sense?
Yes.
I don't know. I was just guessing like, does that get better with time? Or like,
Yes. That should just get better with time. Yeah. That's okay. So the question was about how uh every time that we try the breathing meditation, it's like you can't avoid making it conscious, kind of to rephrase it, and trying to, you know, say or thinking I'm breathing and making it kind of an extra longer breath or something. So I think that that will just kind of calm down once the mind settles a bit more. Yeah,
when you
I think. Although come back and check again if it doesn't.
say like meditate on the breath. Sometimes some people say to like meditate on the sensation of the air coming in and out of the nostrils, on the abdomen, the in and out, or
Yeah,
sometimes the movement of the whole breath.
yeah.
I don't know, like
It's optional. Yeah,
it's
whichever of
any
those.
one of
Yeah,
those is like
they're all fine. Yeah, yeah. The question was about you know different instructions give different points of focus of the breath. So any of those are fine.
Related to that question, would you say that you should like pick one of those? Because I feel like I find myself just going between different
Oh, you have to pick one and stay with it for one session.
like one aspect of the breath,
Mm,
you
yeah,
know, instead of like right now I'm noticing how it feels in my nose. And now I'm feeling in my abdomen.
yeah, yeah. Pick only one. That's
Pick
right.
one. Yeah.
one session.
For that session at least. Yeah.
Just
Yeah,
to,
this is the challenge with single pointed or shamatha serenity meditation is being able to just pick decide on an object and keep it. Even if you're meditating on the form of the Buddha's body, right? Then it can be tempting to make it bigger or move it or put it in a different background. Like you have to try and just keep it to one object, and that's just because that's what's being cultivated is this really just a clear focus on one object so that the concentration just locks in and builds stronger and stronger. It's building a muscle, right? So just that's, if you're doing repetitions of the dumbbells or push-ups or what have you, you all of a sudden like jump into a different position and try to do it. It's like you're not gonna be building the same muscles, right? Yeah.
Do you guys legs fall asleep when you're sleeping? Like, does that get better with time? Also, like, was there anything we can do differently to avoid that, or just
Yeah, that should get better with time also, but it is difficult. So one option is to just take a pause and stretch. Another good method to deal with that is stretch ahead of time or kind of you know I mean that is almost from as I understand it the point of the physical yoga practices of for instance hatha yoga is to I mean it's more directly related to it's related, yeah, it's definitely related to that. I mean also there's understanding of like the subtle body and the prana and the channels, but you know just having your body be able to sit comfortably is also a part of it. So yeah, if you do hatha yoga, I think that will help with that. Or even just exercise, any kind of like using your legs. That just kind of makes your legs a little more supple and makes it easier to sit. But I mean, what I find helps a lot is like in the monastery, we're not allowed to use cushions, right? We just sit on, and we have mats, but they're flat. So everyone, we sit in rows on the mats. Like when we go to pujas, I mean, we do prayers together in your room you could do whatever you want, right? But and when we're sitting in prayers together, then we're just on a flat cushion, and I find that makes it harder. So raising, I mean, we all have cushions now, but so maybe just getting a slightly higher cushion that could help, or doubling up or something.
I don't know. 'Cause I noticed that on Saturday, or whenever I see you. But I was spending the whole time thinking about my life.
Yeah. Well, just sit in a chair then. Yeah, if it's really painful and it's really getting at it, just distracting you, sit in a chair. And then over time again. Well, that's not that if there's a for when here it's okay, but when Rinpoche is there, you wouldn't want to do that because that's considered actually disrespectful to point your feet at the statues or teachers. So, um, yeah. So it was better to sit in a chair. It'd be better.
Just looking, I don't know what, not Rinpoche, but the other section.
Oh, Geshe Ngawang. Yeah.
I saw legs didn't move.
Right.
Same position. It's like the his legs fallen completely.
Yeah, I mean, he's been doing that for probably 40 years, right? Like for hours a day, So just and honestly, Tibetans and even Indians, you know, even Asians of all types, Chinese, Singaporeans, Indonesians, they sit on the ground. They're just used to it from birth, from early childhood. They're just used to sitting cross-legged. Like we called it Indian style when I was a kid. I don't know if they still do, but I think do they?
I mean, I don't know if they still.
There's a, yeah, they did though. Right, right. They used to call it sitting Indian style, and it really, when you go to India, families just sitting on the floor, cross-legged, right? So they just are used to it from very young. And, it's not that it's never hurts them either. It's like if you're sitting in a puja for 4 hours, a lot of people are still gonna be like, "Oh, that was a long time." It's like you can feel it, but we need to ease our way into that. I think it's actually something that's not talked about enough, frankly, in Buddhist communities, meditation communities, because it can really give a lot of stress to be like, I want to do the right thing, but it hurts so much. So you really got to take care of that and just be easy on yourself and understanding of we have different backgrounds and people we're inheriting this tradition from and these practices from. And so don't push yourself to say I have to sit in the right position and
I had asked Geshe La about this the Geshe who generally teaches us on Tuesdays about the sitting cross-legged and how to work on that. And that was his piece of it. He was just like, just sit in the position more, right? Like, so and actually that made a huge difference. Like just at home now, like if I'm sitting in a chair or sitting on the couch, or even eating, like I'll just kind of sit in this. And then it's like also more relaxed than when you're really sitting in meditation. Like it's actually quite formal. You can be in it in a little bit more relaxed position in the house and have a backrest and stuff. So, and that made like a really big difference.
Yeah.
For me, it was just doing it around the house more casually.
That's really great. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good advice and a good habit. Yeah.
Yeah.
So again, if you can, I mean, if it's not too painful for you and kind of to the degree that you're comfortable doing it, then that helps. Yeah, and then at some point, you'll probably want to maybe do a longer, like a retreat or some practice that you'll be doing more hours of sitting per day, and that those are the times when you just kind of grit your teeth and go through it. Yeah. Yeah, that would mean like sticking your feet out straight, not in a chair. Oh no, that's fine. No, no, in the chair, that's fine. It means like you're sticking like the soles of your feet towards something, not your toes. Yeah.
Like this much soup.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, it's yeah, that's fine. Yeah. That's true. It is better, yeah.
Like literally just this.
Right. That's really the bad one. Yeah. Yeah, I don't I don't know exactly where that came from or what's the thought behind it, but it's a custom, right? It's part of the culture. Yeah. Cool. Okay. Any questions for people online? You can start going through the text again. So where we are in the text. Does anybody remember where we are in the text? You have a bookmark. Okay, so where does it say? What's the title? Okay, we finished that section, right? Okay,
Yeah.
that's good. We just finished. Perfect. So that was the last one. Object of meditation, purifying your behavior. So people who missed last week, I think it was actually just Q&A. Did it? Geshe-la didn't even go through the text more, so we're still at the same place. Let me again do the screen share. Oh, do I have the, I don't think I have it even open yet. One second. This is volume 2. That's the wrong volume. That's for Sunday's class. Let me open the right text. Okay, and what page is that? Okay, I think it might be a slightly different page numbering, but it should be close. Okay, okay. Now, just as a general point here, we are looking at meditation. We're looking at specifically serenity meditation, but really, when we're talking about the objects of meditation, it works for both serenity and insight. Now, this is a little bit of a difficult section of the text, as far as I'm concerned. And part of the reason is because J. Rinpoche is kind of trying to, reference these older Indian texts that he's using as the source for this material. But, the terminology can be quite difficult, and there's a lot of presumed background knowledge. Okay, so maybe I'll ask you guys now, do you want to like go into detail about all this kind of background knowledge, or just kind of go through it maybe a little more quickly, and then things that you don't quite get, just leave it for now, and then we can move into the, kind of the more, nitty gritty of how to do the meditation.
How relevant is the background information to like practical reality of meditating? Or
Well, that's a really great question. It's relevant in a long-term sense. Like you'll want to learn it eventually at some point in your life as part of your path to enlightenment. To just start meditating and meditating well, it's not necessary to learn this stuff. Yeah.
you give us a sneak peek of what you mean? Like what is
Yeah, let's go through it. I mean, let's just read it. We'll just read through it. How about that? Literally just read it, and I won't give a single word of comment of explanation, and then we'll see what made sense and what didn't. I will say after this immediate, explanation of these 4 types of objects, then Tsongkhapa does go into a little bit of a discussion about kind of a little bit more clarifying kind of what they mean, or what why give this, this categorization of different objects of meditation. And then he goes into a very interesting question about what he considers to be an improper or mistaken understanding of meditation, and the mistaken type or improper type of meditation. So I think that's relevant. That's very interesting, and also relevant because, frankly, there are still people around teaching those styles of meditation, and it's important to understand, what their function might be, why J. Rinpoche considers it to be a mistaken understanding, right? Okay, so let's do C, objects of meditation for expertise. Yes, it is page 36 here too. Okay. So would anybody like to, oh, sorry, I'll do the Zoom screen share. Would anybody like to read?
objects of meditation for expertise? Or
That's where we are. C, objects of meditation. Oh, no, C was which one? For expertise, yeah.
There are also 5 objects of meditation for expertise, namely expertise in A, the aggregates, B, the constituents, C, the sources, D, dependent arising, and E, what is and is not possible. A, the aggregates are the 5 aggregates of form and the others, feeling, discrimination, compositional factors, consciousness. Expertise in these is knowing that, apart from these aggregates, the self and what pertains to the self do not exist. B, the constituents are the I and the others of the 18 constituents. Expertise in them is knowing the causal conditions by which those constituents arise from their own seeds. C, the sources are the I and the others of the 12 sources. Expertise in these is knowing that the 6 internal sources are the dominant condition for the 6 consciousnesses, that the six external sources are the object conditions, and that the mind which has just ceased is the immediately preceding condition. D, dependent arising is the 12 factors. Expertise in them is knowing that they are impermanent, suffering, and devoid of self. E, what is and is not possible refers to such things as it being possible for a pleasant fruition to arise from a virtuous action, but not possible for a pleasant fruition to arise from a non-virtuous action. Expertise in this is knowing that things are this way. This is a particular case of expertise in dependent arising. The difference is that you understand diverse causes. When you use these as objects of meditation for cultivating serenity, you keep your attention on just one of the perspectives in which the aggregates, etc., may be known.
Makes lots of sense, right? Clear? Clear as day. Thought so. Yeah. So I think the main thing that I'll say about this, though, and thank you, Neil, for reading, is just that we have these different classifications of what exists, the phenomena of the universe. Okay? What are they? The aggregates, the constituents, and the sources. Sometimes you see the term elements used in English instead of constituents. Same thing, different translation choice. Okay. Elements or constituents. So the aggregates, constituents, and sources. These terms come up constantly in the sutras and the other Buddhist philosophy texts. 5 aggregates, form, then feeling, then feeling and sensation are, so this is the trouble because there's so many different translations. Feeling and sensation are both just 2 English words for the same Vedana, right? Sensation, then even the third one that we have several different options. So perception or discrimination. 4th one is the compositional factors. Great. And the 5th one is consciousness. Okay, 5 aggregates. Okay, so Jay Rinpoche later will go into a little bit about more about that a little bit. Constituents then are it says the I and the others of the 18. Okay, so what does that mean? So we have 3 sets of 6 constituents. Okay, that means we have the 3 sensory modality. The 6 sensory modalities. That's the first set, right? Visual for the eye, right? Auditory, olfactory, gustatory, tactile, mental modality. Okay, then we have the 6 objects. Those are the focus. The 6. Then we have the 6 objects. So those are the focus of our conscious experience, right? Visual forms, sound, smells, taste, tactile objects, and then for the 6th one is all phenomena. Not yet. Those were the objects. Then we have the 6 consciousnesses. Okay, so that's the next set of 3. Again, next set of 6. There are 3 sets of 6. First 6 are the modalities. Those are actual, like the main, what's called the dominant condition or empowering condition that gives rise to a consciousness, right? So the 5 physical sense organs and then mind. Then we have the 6 objects of those things we see, smell, taste, touch, and then think, and things we perceive with the mind. Okay, then we have the 6 consciousnesses, right? That's the visual consciousness, eye consciousness, you can say, the ear consciousness, nose consciousness, tongue consciousness, body consciousness, mental consciousness. Okay, 18 constituents. Why are they constituents? Well, what are they constituents of? Why are they constituents? Constituents is actually, I don't think really, it's not my preferred translation, I should say. The word is come in Tibetan, dhatu in Sanskrit. Now, what is another use of it's a word? These words are used very broadly in many different contexts, but another use is, for instance, when we have different regions, like we're in New England or the South or the Southeast, the Southwest, or whatever, the right Pacific Northwest, those would be called come, the same word. So it could be like a region or a place, or another way we could say it is like the the three realms. So it's used to mean like a realm or a domain. So I think it makes more sense to think of these as they're like this different domains or realms of of things, existent things, right? Point is, everything that exists can fall into these six, right? There's nothing that exists that is not one of with these 18. There's nothing that exists that is not one of these 18, right? So it sort of covers everything, right? Can you think of something that exists that's not one of those 18? Try it. Well, if you just have a thought, like, well, what about, I don't know, like something that doesn't make sense to you to fit into one of those 18, just say it and we'll see how it does. What about an apple? Is that one of those 18? Okay. Which one?
If you're seeing it, then it's a visual object.
Right. Good. And anyway, it's certainly an object of mind, right? Yeah. Good.
So the concept of an apple.
Concept of an apple, is that known by the mind?
Object.
Yeah.
Like,
Yep.
so one thing that one is like different aspects of
Yep. So everything that exists is, so we had three sets of six, right? The sensory modalities, the objects, and the consciousnesses, right? Those are the three sets: the modalities, the objects, the consciousnesses. Okay? Modalities, objects, consciousnesses. So when we look at the objects, we have objects, right? Of seeing, sight, sound, smell, taste, touch, and then mental objects, right? The phenomena, just called phenomena usually. Well, that includes everything, everything that exists. So it includes also all the other 17 categories of these constituents or domains, right? So yes, that's a good question. Okay. Anyway, Buddhist philosophy. This is funny because the Buddha, you really, when you look at the way these things evolved, like the Buddha taught so many different people over 45 years, right? The Buddha was teaching for a long time. He taught many thousands of people. The Buddhist canon has many thousands of texts, right? I mean, of the Buddha's own word. And maybe 100, I don't know, thousands, maybe hundreds more. But anyway, it's 100 volumes in Tibetan, and then there's more beyond that because there's many in the Pali canon that are not in the Tibetan, and then in the Agamas of the Chinese canon that are not Tibetan. Anyway, he taught a lot, and so in some instances, in some cases, he would teach about the 18 constituents. In other places, he would teach about the 5 aggregates. In other places, he would teach about the 12 sources, like and then in some places he taught about all of them. It just depended on what was most expedient for the listeners to understand, right, what he was trying to teach them. And what is he trying to teach them? Well, as it says here, expertise in these is knowing that apart from these aggregates, the self and what pertains to the self does not exist. Okay. And then the constituents, expertise in them is knowing the causal conditions by which those constituents arise from their own seeds. Right. So we're understanding, like, the point of teaching these things is to help us understand. Why teach the aggregates? So we can understand that there is no true self that's inside or outside the aggregates. We take apart the person, everything that everything that makes up who we are, the I, the me, self, right? Peel it apart, look under the hood, peel apart all the layers, and what do we get? 5 aggregates. Is there a self in there? No, we didn't find a self in there. So that's why the Buddha taught the 5 aggregates, right? And the 18 constituents. So here it's like just understanding that each, unique kind of phenomenon has its own unique kind of, it has to come from something which is of a similar type to itself, right? This notion of a result that arises from something that's of a similar type to itself. That's what it means here by arise from their own seeds, right? So a visual consciousness arises from a prior visual consciousness, right? Visual sense modality arises from a prior visual sense modality from a previous lifetime, of course, right? This is just a given, and by now, volume 1 of the text dealt with past and future lives and thinking about rebirth and everything, right? So by now it's just a given that yes, there's rebirth. Okay, anyway, I am talking too much about these. So just to clarify though, that these are common themes in Buddhist philosophy, in the Buddhist sutras. Of course, dependent arising has many meanings and uses, but here it's referencing the 12 links of dependent origination or dependent arising, starting with ignorance, ending with birth, aging, sickness, and death, right? Aging and death, right? That's the last of the 12 links, right? Okay. And then what is and is not possible is understanding of karma. Understanding of karma. So this is funny now, because we're talking about these things that seem so maybe philosophical, maybe, things that you really have to think about and analyze and learn about. So why is this being talked about as an object for serenity instead of for insight? Why samatha instead of vipassana, right? Well, it's, again, they're objects for both. So that's why in the last paragraph, that last line, Tsongkhapa reminds us, when you use these objects of meditation for cultivating serenity, you keep your attention on just one of the perspectives in which the aggregates, etc., may be known. Okay, so you're just focusing on the selflessness of the aggregates, or the impermanence of the aggregates, right? Or the suffering nature of the aggregates, just one aspect. Now, of course, how do you get your mind to focus on that one aspect? You have to understand it first. So you do have to do analytical meditation ahead of time to understand that the self, that the aggregates are empty of a self, and what it, and that which belongs to a self, the I and mine. Okay. Any questions so far? We can move on, right? Good. Next one, D. Anyone want to read?
Read that one.
Okay, Jason, thank you.
Objects of meditation for purifying afflictions. Purifying afflictions means either merely reducing the strength of the seeds of the afflictions, or else utterly eradicating the seeds. In the former case, the objects of meditations are the comparative coarseness of each lower stage and comparative calmness of each higher stage, proceeding from the level of the desire realm to the level of nothingness. In the later case, the object of meditation are impermanence and the other of the 16 aspects of the Four Noble Truths. When you see these as objects of meditation for cultivating serenity, you do not analyze, but instead keep your attention on any one cognition of any aspect of those objects that appears to it.
Wait, I just want to pause there. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You'll keep going in a moment. So just pointing out here, if you didn't catch it, Tsongkhapa is saying the exact same thing, right? This is the third time now so far in this section on the objects where he's really emphasizing, like, yes, it might sound crazy that we're talking about all these complex meditations as being objects of serenity, but that's because you can use them after you've understood them for serenity meditation. Okay, after you've already contemplated them. Okay, go ahead.
So, Kamalashila's second stages of meditation states that objects of meditation are three. First, after you have brought together everything that all 12 branches of scripture say about determining, settling into, and having settled into reality, you stabilize your mind upon it. Second, you observe the aggregates, etc., which include phenomena to some extent. Third, you stabilize your mind on the physical form of the Buddha, which you have seen and heard about. How do you stabilize your mind on things such as the aggregates? When you understand how all compositional things can be included within the five aggregates, you mentally collect them gradually into the five aggregates. Then you observe them and keep your attention on them. Just as discerning wisdom develops when you cultivate differentiation, so when you cultivate collectedness, you develop concentration wherein your attention is brought together on the object of meditation without moving toward other objects. This is a personal instruction of the knowledge tradition. Likewise, when you understand how all phenomena can be included within the constituents and sources, you mentally collect them into these categories and keep your attention on this.
Okay, maybe that's a good place to stop because then it moves into a more general explanation. So this is kind of the end of that, right? The objects for purifying the afflictions section. Okay. So this translation is a little difficult, meaning the Tibetan is sort of gives a little different sense of what Tsongkhapa is talking about here than what the English is giving. Okay, so be it. The nature of translation, right? But let's just again just giving some background. Okay, basic background here for objects for purifying afflictions. So there are two ways of purifying or abandoning afflictions, right? You can either do it from the root or you can do it sort of temporarily suppressing them. From the root means they will never arise again. That's what happens when you achieve the Arya paths, path of seeing, meditation, path of no more learning, right? Meaning you have a direct realization of emptiness. That's the moment you begin to remove afflictions from the seed or abandon them from the root, I should say. Let's see it from the root. Okay. So that's one way. Another way is what happens when you meditate on the jhanas. Has anybody heard the word jhana before? You've heard the word? No, you haven't. Some of you have. Okay, so jhana is a type of meditation that is just a very, very deep absorption, a meditative absorption that's very deep. Okay, there are 4 jhanas of the form realm and 4 of the formless realm, 4 formless realm meditations. Okay, these meditative absorptions are classified based on, right, just the fact that they have different branches to them, and those help suppress the afflictions of the next lower state of consciousness, or we use the word ground in the philosophy texts, but it's obviously meant in a metaphorical sense, not the ground. But so we have right now we're in the desire realm. Our minds are the desire realm minds. Our minds are on the ground of the desire realm. As soon as we achieve the first jhana, first meditative absorption, then all the afflictions of the desire realm will be suppressed. So what does that have to do with Tsongkhapa's explanation here? That's when he says, in the former case, the objects of meditation, former case means reducing the strength of the seeds. That's what I'm saying by suppressing them, reducing the strength. The objects of meditation are the comparative coarseness of each lower stage and comparative calmness of each higher stage, proceeding from the level of the desire realm up to the level of nothingness. Okay? So what he's saying is that literally the way you do this meditation, and this is understood to be a meditation that's common, it's not a Buddhist meditation, meaning it's not uniquely Buddhist, right? There's nothing about it that only Buddhists would understand or would have a view about or belief in, right? Anyone can do it. It's just that you recognize that the state of your mind right now here in this desire realm, this place, this type of conscious state of thinking, of feeling, where we are constantly, tossed about by, well, essentially our desire. Most prominently our desire, often also our anger. And we're just constantly irritated, constantly frustrated, constantly wanting this, wanting that, wanting to feel better, wanting to have pleasure, right? Constantly just buffeted around like this. And then on top of that, we have very short lifespan, right? We only live max 100 some years and change. We get sick all the time, right? We have so many problems in this desire realm. So by thinking about that, and then thinking about how the jhana, the first jhana, is so much more pure, so much more blissful, so much more calm, so many less afflictions, so many less problems. If only I could just live in that heavenly realm of the jhana, just doing that, that's what's called the meditation on the comparison of coarseness and subtleness, or the comparative analysis of coarseness and subtleness. So that's what Tsongkhapa is talking about here. Doing that meditation, then allows you to suppress the afflictions of the desire realm. You make their strength weaker. You don't abandon them by the root. Making their strength weaker, then you can achieve the first jhana. Make sense? Okay. That's all he's talking about here. So in the case of the latter, that means abandoning by the root, the objects of meditation are impermanence and the other of the 16 aspects of the Four Noble Truths. So again, something that you need the background on to understand. What are the 16 aspects of the Four Noble Truths? Well, there are 4 for each noble truth. There are 4 noble truths, right? So for instance, the truth of suffering is that 4 aspects are impermanence, selflessness, emptiness, and suffering itself, right? Suffering. Impermanence, I messed up the order. Impermanence, suffering, selflessness, emptiness. Okay. For the next one, for instance, I don't even know the English exactly what we say, but for the true origins, then the 4 aspects would be the origin, this cause, strong producer, strong production, and what's the word looking? I'm forgetting the 4th one right now. But anyway, we can do that kind of meditation. That's what allows us to actually perceive emptiness directly. It's when you have that first moment of the path of seeing and you're directly perceiving emptiness, all these 16 attributes or aspects of the Four Noble Truths are also directly perceived. Okay. So it's just, yeah, that's it, condition. So it's cause, condition, origin, and strong production. That's the 4 of the 4 of the true origin. Okay. The 4 of true origins. So it's cause, condition, origin, and then strong production. Strong production. So strong production means that, right, so I can explain. So cause means that everything arises from a cause. It's nothing is causeless, right? Nothing arises without a cause, and nothing and then so that's cause. Okay. Condition means nothing arises from simply one cause. So there's no creator God that produces everything. Instead, everything that arises or that that is created or is produced is created by multiple causes and conditions coming together. So that's what condition means. Okay, so each of these 16 are taught specifically to overcome a wrong view or belief, okay? So then you have Gyuken, and then Kunjung refers to, so then the one of origin, I forget exactly right now which one that refers to, I'll check on that. And then the 4th one of strong production, that refers to the fact that our karmas, right, like a previous karma and afflictions, it creates, doesn't just give rise to future suffering, but it does so in a very like kind of sharp, like a powerful way, right? Like our experiences of suffering come in a very powerful way. So the karma has this kind of strong production to it. I mean, strong is actually a little bit of a, again, kind of a loose translation, but it makes sense in this context. Yeah, the Tibetan word is rapke, raptukewa. Rap is just kind of this superlative in a sense, right? So it's like extremely produced, like strongly produced. That's kind of the sense of it, right? Okay. I'm sorry, I forget the 3rd one now. I'll check on it. I'll send it in the Forest of Learning WhatsApp group. I'll check on it later tonight. Okay. Now, shall we move on? Kamala Shilas. Does anybody want to read, or should I read at this point? Okay, so again, you just keep your attention on one cognition of one aspect of those objects that appears to it. So yeah, the idea here is that these are kind of advanced meditations, right? It's like you wouldn't just do this as a your first try doing shamatha meditation. You know, this is like someone who's really learned very thoroughly Buddhist philosophy and thought about it a lot, and you have a really strong and clear picture of all these concepts. Then you can actually place your mind single pointedly on that, right? And that's like an internal mental object. It's not visualized, it's not like a visual object, right? It's an understanding. So you're placing your mind single pointedly on an understanding of something. So you could do that also with like, what are the Sunday classes about? Now we're getting into bodhicitta, right? So on Sunday, Rinpoche talked a lot about the kindness of our mothers, right? So you can do that too. You can do single pointed shamatha meditation on the kindness of your mother, right? Remembering in a sense that becomes a gratitude meditation essentially, right? So remembering that, and then just that kind of that over, that feeling that comes over you of gratitude, of recognition of how kind our mother has been. So here, pay attention to this wording. It says, you do not analyze, but instead keep your attention on any one cognition of an aspect of those objects that appears to it. Okay? That appears to the cognition. That means appears to the mind, right? So you just, think about all the different ways in which your mother has been kind to you. Think about how you couldn't survive without her, how much she sacrificed for your sake. And then there's going to be something appears in your mind, whether it's a feeling, whether it's what to call it, it doesn't really matter, but there's some appearance in the mind. That's the phrasing of the Buddhist text. There's an appearance in the mind. Okay? Focus on that appearance in the mind and don't move to different things. Don't let your mind start, remembering other things your mother has done, or other people, or thinking about past lives or future lives. Just think about that one, focus on that one aspect, that one appearance to the mind. Okay, that's the idea here. With whatever contemplation, any of the Lamrim topics of the entire series of 3 volumes, you can do that. That's how we do serenity meditation on them. Okay. Okay, I'll read now. Kamala Shila's second stages of meditation states that objects of meditation are 3. After you have, oh, we went through that already. So, yeah, this is the place where honestly, I can't really. I'm having trouble reconciling this English translation with what I understood from the Tibetan. So I'll just leave it because I don't want to give say something mistaken about it. I will just say where it says this is a personal instruction of the knowledge tradition, that's just, it means the tradition of Abhidharma. I don't know really why they didn't just say Abhidharma, but it's referring to the Abhidharma, a specific textual tradition, right, of the group of texts called the Abhidharma. Okay. Okay. Among these 4 types of objects of meditation for purifying behavior, as explained, facilitate the stopping of attachment and such, and those whose behavior is dominated by attachment and such. So now he's going into the functions, and sort of it's both like the functions of the different types of objects of meditation, but also he's giving a reason. He's giving like the motivation. Why are these categorized into these 4 different sets, right? So first we have, why is it the purifying behavior? Well, because they help to stop the afflictions, those strong afflictions, attachment and such, obviously means the other afflictions, whose behavior is dominated by those afflictions. So that's how it purifies your behavior. And again, those were like the meditations on the ugliness of the body, right? Loving kindness, those ones, right? They are special objects of meditation because you may readily attain concentration based upon them. Objects of meditation for expertise are conducive to the development of the insight that knows emptiness, inasmuch as they refute a personal self that is not included among those phenomena. Okay, again, the expertise we just went through. So that was like the aggregates, constituents, sources, 12 links. So again, you see you're able to, blow apart this thing we call self, looking at the 5 aggregates, seeing there's no true self in there, no independent self in there, then you can realize selflessness. Therefore, they are excellent objects of meditation for cultivating serenity. Objects of meditation for dispelling afflictions serve as general antidotes to the afflictions, so they have great significance. So again, he's saying these are all good. He's not like putting one above the other or anything, right? And that, again, when you talk about dispelling afflictions as a general antidote to the afflictions, it's like when you do that meditation of the analysis of the aspects of coarseness and subtleness, right? You're just like seeing the whole of this desire realm, right? And just being like, that's just not for me. I'm fed up with it, right? Too much stress, too much disappointment, too much craving, attachment, anger, whatever it is, right? And then you just go, all right, I'm out of here. I'm going to the jhanas, and then that just suppresses all the afflictions together of the desire realm. Got it? Same with realizing selflessness. It just cuts because you remove the root affliction of ignorance. That's the root of all the other afflictions. Then it cuts all the afflictions from the root. The universal objects of meditation are not distinct from the aforementioned three. Okay, so again, that one was one that we went through several weeks ago, but there it was sort of just talking about in a very general way, saying that basically anything can be an object of meditation, right? That's where we had the discursive, the non-discursive, right? Remember that section? Okay. Therefore, since you must achieve concentration using an object of meditative serenity that has a particular purpose, those who achieve concentration using things like pebbles and twigs for objects of meditation are clearly ignorant of the teachings on objects of concentration. Okay, so here we're getting a little feisty. Those guys are clearly ignorant. No, it's just like some Kappa does use some, the wording. It's like in Tibetan, it's more like it's more humorous than it is insulting, like the way that Tibetan scholars insult each other in their texts. It's not really insulting. Like the language you can the sense it gives. It's not really giving a sense of like that's ignorant. It's like, but it's more humorous than anything. But he is pointing out that it's those are not super helpful to use as objects of meditation because they don't have any real purpose to them, right? Just focusing on a pebble or twig. Okay, now it gets to a real interesting question that we can maybe people might want to debate about. Sorry, there's already a question. Oh, let's see.
Yeah,
A pre-question.
a pre-question. We're gonna go to this stuff. I have a question actually about the previous paragraph on collectedness
Yeah.
and the sense of collectedness
Yeah. See,
being
that's
used here.
yeah. Go ahead. Yeah.
And like, because we had kind of talked about this before, like, thinking of these objects together, and that does that itself become an object of meditation?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm trying to understand the notion of like, because it seems like he's trying to make a point. You mentally collect them into these categories and keep your attention on this. So is that the sense in which like the five aggregates then becomes its own object of meditation? So like you start with the constituents, like each of the five aggregates. And then there's a meditation that is collecting the five aggregates. And then you can meditate on this category of the five. Is that like is that what's kind of getting explained here? Is that there's some meditation of how you can meditate on all five simultaneously?
That could be part of it.
Is that it?
Again, it really feels quite different in Tibetan, but it's still what you're saying makes sense too. So when you understand how all compositional things can be included within the five aggregates, so that's the first step, right? So again, the 18 constituents include everything that exists, right? Doesn't include anything that doesn't exist, right? But it includes everything that exists, okay? So 18 constituents, okay? The 12 sources we didn't actually count off, but so that's just, you take the 18 constituents and you remove the consciousness. Then you have the 12 sources. Okay, why sources? They're sources of consciousness. They're what spawns our consciousness. Where does our consciousness spawn from? Spawns from an object and a modality. Okay? An object and a sense modality. Those are the 12 sources. The five aggregates include all compounded phenomena, which means all impermanent phenomena. Okay, so all impermanent phenomena are included within the five aggregates. Not all phenomena, but all impermanent phenomena. Okay, because they're a permanent phenomena as well, right? Okay, so and the concept of, what did you say before? The concept of
Of an apple.
an apple,
Yeah.
yeah. The concept of an apple would be a permanent phenomenon, right? So that's not included in the 5 aggregates, but included in the 18 constituents. Okay, so we have the 5 aggregates and we understand how all impermanent phenomena are included within them. So that itself is like a kind of like meditation, right? That would be like more an analytical meditation where you're understanding, trying to think of different things, seeing which aggregate which category it falls into, right? And then yeah, I guess you're right. You kind of just then hold that kind of whole understanding of just those 5 categories, those 5 aggregates, kind of in a big picture way, and then just focus your mind single pointedly on that. Yeah. Sounds like that's what it's talking about. Yeah. Now the question is, are you then like, what are you actually, are you like also watching your breath and trying to see like, okay, there's the form aggregate, and then is it sort of like the first meditation we did today where you're like observing the different things arising moment to moment and then trying to place them into an aggregate? I don't know. That could be, I mean, that certainly would be a valid practice to do, but that's more like a analytical meditation than stabilizing meditation. Yeah. Okay, we have a little bit of time to get into this question, so I will just start getting into it. There are those, and then we can continue on, and it would be great when Geshe-la's back with us next week. There are those who suppose that if you focus on an object of meditation and keep your attention on it, this is an apprehension of signs. So again, we have so many terms coming up that sort of like, presume a little bit of experience or previous experience with these terms, with these ideas. But this notion of signs versus signlessness and meditation or any mental state that includes an apprehension of signs in the Buddhist world, especially in the Mahayana Buddhist or Madhyamaka Buddhist world, is considered something that is like a faulty kind of mind, something that we want to try to overcome, apprehension of signs, ultimately. So that's just like a little bit of background there. Okay. So this is why would be someone coming with like a criticism towards this type of meditation. Okay, saying no, that's not real good meditation because you're apprehending signs. Okay. They claim that meditation on emptiness means just stabilizing your mind without any bias. Without any basis. Just stabilizing your mind without any basis, without focusing on any object of meditation. What do you guys think? Let's read it again. They claim, right, people who would say that focusing on an object is an apprehension of signs and thus not a proper form of meditation. This is a critique, right? Someone criticizing Tsongkhapa's previous explanation he just gave. Those people also claim that meditation on emptiness means, so again, ultimately we're going through this whole 1,000-page text so we can learn to meditate on emptiness, right? Again, the two sides of the, we need 2 wings, right, to fly. Emptiness and bodhicitta. Okay, but one of the big ones is, to focus on is emptiness. They claim that meditation on emptiness means just stabilizing your mind without any basis, without focusing on any object of meditation. What do you think? Does that make sense? Focusing your mind without any object of meditation. Pure mind, thoughtless, objectless. That's real emptiness. Does that make sense? If you try to think about the aggregates, and you think about these 5 aggregates, and you look for yourself, and you do all this, aren't you just apprehending more? Isn't that just more conceptuality? Isn't that just more intellectualizing? So real emptiness meditation, just no object, just mind, pure meditation.
No.
Does it make sense?
When you try to focus on something, like typically it's like a thing that you're focusing on, you know?
Anyone else have a thought?
Well, you got your mind is always going, so it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to meditate on nothingness. Something is going to appear in your mind, or else you're going to be in a different state. You're going to be in a meditative state, and then different things can appear because you're not in the same you're in a different, frame of consciousness. In other words, the mind is always going. So if it shuts down, then you're going to be someplace else. And whatever you're going to be, it doesn't necessarily mean there's going to be nothing, emptiness there.
Very good.
It
Very
could
good.
be, you could meet I've meditated and, met various, people, masters, whatever, you're going to have an experience that's not going to necessarily be nothingness.
Nothingness. Very, very good point. Okay, so Jonathan makes a good point. At least makes a kind of similar point. Very good point. And I think you guys read ahead because it's pretty much what Tsongkhapa goes on to say. So let's just finish reading it for today's class. Okay, this is a total misunderstanding of how to meditate on emptiness. If you have no consciousness at that time, then neither will you have a concentration that cultivates emptiness. On the other hand, so he's giving two options. You either have no consciousness or you have consciousness, right? When you're doing this meditation without any basis, meditation that's objectless, without any focus, right? He's saying, okay, so let's just pretend that kind of meditation exists. You're doing it, it's right. You either have consciousness present or not. If you have no consciousness at that time, then you won't have a concentration that cultivates emptiness. No consciousness means no concentration. On the other hand, if you have consciousness, then you are conscious of something. Just like our brilliant students have said already. They had the answer. Then you are conscious of something. So you have to accept that there is an object of consciousness in terms of which consciousness is posited. If there is an object of consciousness, then precisely that is the object of meditation of that mind. Because object of meditation, and object of consciousness have the same meaning. Okay? So you have a consciousness, it's consciousness of some object, right? So this is, you guys already said it. So in that case, they would have to accept that even their method of concentration would apprehend signs. Okay? Thus, their approach is not correct. In other words, it has an internal contradiction. They're saying that my meditation is better than what Tsongkhapa is saying because it's real emptiness meditation. There's no signs. We're not thinking about all this conceptual junk. Nonsense. No signs, no object. Just meditating. Pure mind. Well, you're saying there's a mind present or not? No mind present, no concentration, no meditation. Mind present? Okay. Well, it's consciousness. What's it consciousness of? You're having an experience of what? If you're saying it's of the signless mind, well, then you're having a meditation on signlessness. But that is the sign. And you're still grasping at signs, right? In the same way. I mean, in other words, there's some object. That's the basic point. Very good. Okay. I think our time is up, so we'll do dedications. Okay. Thank you for your contributions. And good to see everybody online. Okay, I'm going to, let's see, since we don't have the screen here set up in person for people to see the dedications, let's just do, what should we do here?
Thank you, Lohan.
You're welcome. I forget actually where we have one thing that has some of the other dedications, but
For dedication.
one second. Okay, I'll just recite them because I can't find them. Spaceship has landed. Okay. All right, I'll just do a bunch of them, and if you know it, you know it. You can join along. Jiangchu Sen Cho Rinpoche Ma Ke Ba Nam Ke Gyo Chi Ke Ba Nyam Ba Me Ba Yang Gong Ne Gong Du Pe Wa Shou Kangri Rawe Korwe Shinkam Dear Pendang Dewa Malu Jumwe Chenre Zigwan Tenzin Gyatso Shapi Si De Bardu Den Gyo Chi. May the precious Bodhi mind not yet born arise and grow. May that born have no decline, but increase forevermore. In the snowy mountain pure land, you're the source of good and happiness. Powerful Tenzin Gyatso Chandrazik, may you stay until samsara's end. Due to this merit, may we soon attain the awakened state of Guru Buddha, that we may be able to liberate all sentient beings from their suffering. Jampo Pawo Jita Kempa Tankuntu Zambo Deandation De Kungit. I forgot the rest of it. Sorry. Okay, well, we can just dedicate with our own intentions and thoughts. But I know in English, actually, that's better. What is that? With whatever, how does it go? Okay. I think it's in here. 1 second. I'll just pull it up quickly. Better to give a good dedication in English. Okay, yes. Oh no, it doesn't have it. Darn it. Okay. That's okay. Okay, everybody, very good. Thank you. We had a good dedication, I think.
Thank you.
See you.